And that was the Liberated Gospel Choir. Next up, we have Amara, I don't want to mess up your last name, Colinco. Thank you. I don't like when people mess up my name, so I don't want to mess up yours. But wherever you are, beautiful, you can come. Hey, gorgeous.
Hi, guys. So, I'm gonna speak some words. I don't know if it counts as spoken word. I'm just an engineering student who has some things to say. The piece that I wrote is called "And Then It Was Over." It's about sexual violence and how, even though it's not over, there is a way for recovery and survival. So, thank you, guys. Nobody said it was easy. No one ever said it would be this hard. But, baby, you had that look in your eyes, and I just couldn't help myself. He had pinned me down by my hips and forced himself between my thighs, and I wish I knew what look he thought he had seen in my eyes, because the only way I can remember looking at him is with fear and shame and confusion, because he had said he loved me. But right then it was like I didn't matter to him, and the fact that I said no didn't matter to him. And then it was over. He pulled himself up and he pulled me into the crook of his neck, and his shoulder fit into the crook of my neck, and we fit again, and it was over, and he loved me, and his touch was gentle again, and he loved me, and I felt the faintest sensation of sandpaper against my forehead from his beard that was just growing back, even though he had just been clean shaven, just for me, and he loved me. He loved me, but whatever kind of love he had for me wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to stop his clenched fist from slamming into the wall behind me when we fought. It wasn't enough to show him the hollow darkness that filled me after he had emptied himself. Emptied me and broken me with his selfishness. It wasn't enough to dethrone his pride when I finally told him that while I loved him, he needed to change the way he treated me. It wasn't enough to silence the onslaught of shrieked, slurred profanities, including variations on "fuck you, slut." The first time we encountered each other inebriated with heartache, and the last time he ever spoke to me. And then it was over. Except it isn't over. Not really. It's been 15 months since he left. Sometimes I can't remember his face or his voice, but I remember his hands and the way they felt on my skin. I remember holding his hand for the first time in the park in the middle of brisk October after he held it out for an hour waiting for me to take it. I remember the soft, straight hairs on the backs of his hands and how I would make swirling patterns on them with the pads of my fingers, even though he was terribly self-conscious about his genetic propensity for body hair. I remember how his hands guided mine as he taught me how to shoot his MP5. I remember how gently and tenderly he held each one of my fingers that one time he tried to paint my nails. I remember how he would tuck my long, then hip-length hair behind my ear. I loved those hands. I loved every part of him. But somehow, those same hands and that same boy are the villains of my nightmares, even though they're more like flashbacks. Usually, it's silent and dark. I can't hear myself crying and screaming for help, so I assume that in my dream, no one else can hear me either. I can't see his face, but I know it's him because I know those hands. Sometimes they're grimy and greasy, and I imagine that maybe he's just been working on the Mustang his parents bought him as his first car while we were both still in high school, or the motorcycle that he bought right after we broke up, or maybe some other contraption he's working on because he's a brilliant engineering student and there's almost nothing he can't build or fix. Some of the grime gets into my hair and tangles it as he runs his hand through, and I can sense his disappointment as he realizes that my hair isn't as long as it was when I loved him, because I chopped off and donated about a foot of it in his absence. Then his hands greedily traverse my body as if it is a territory to be claimed. At some point, I wake up shaking and sobbing, so relieved to hear my own heaving breaths, so relieved to see my raised bumps of flesh, so relieved to feel nothing on my skin except my own t-shirt, my own underwear, my own sheets and blankets, and my own hair that's just now growing long again. And if I close my eyes, will he still be there? And maybe this will be the last time he feels the need to do this, and maybe none of this is even real after all. How could it be? Because he loved me. And every time I turn to see that he isn't there. And then it's over. Thank you.